Hare Krishna, Vishwa Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. We have been hearing from the supporters of the unauthorized self-appointed guru system in ISKCON that the Ritvik system was temporary, and they also say that Srila Prabhupada said, disciple of my disciple, grand disciple, he becomes regular guru. These kind of words are loosely bandied about. So, they quote these words like disciple of my disciple, grand disciple, and these kind of things, and say that because of these words from Srila Prabhupada, Ritvik system is not bona fide. That Prabhupada's disciples are authorized to be gurus by Prabhupada. So in this video, let us get to the bottom of this. The most crucial pieces of evidence for the Ritvik system of initiations in ISKCON are two in number. Number one, the May 28th, 1977 GBC meeting with Srila Prabhupada. And number two, the July 9th, 1977 Directive. So, these words, disciple of my disciple, grand disciple, he becomes a regular guru, these are all taken out of the May 28th meeting. So, out of these two important pieces of evidence, the May 28th conversation and the July 9th Directive, let us first take up the May 28th GBC meeting. So before we dive into that meeting, let us first understand why this meeting assumes importance and what relevance it has today, when Srila Prabhupada is not physically with us anymore. Because Prabhupada, there are many recordings of Prabhupada's conversations. So what is special about this conversation? To understand this, we have to go back in history to the year 1977. Now, first let us hear one revealing conversation between Tamal Krishna Goswami and Srila Prabhupada. This conversation took place on 22nd of April, 1977.
People complain against also. Did you know that?
I'm not sure of the particular incidences, but I've heard generally.
In Germany.
The devotees there.
How many come?
Therefore, change is good.
You become guru, but you must be qualified first.
Oh, that kind of complaint was there.
You know that?
Yeah, I heard that.
You are producing some rascal guru.
Well, I've studied myself and all of your disciples, and it's a clear fact that we're all conditioned souls, so we cannot be guru. Maybe one day it may be possible, but not now.
Yes. I can do it, now you do it. I can say, now you become my father, you become my father. I am waiting for you, you become all our time. I retire completely. The training must be complete.
So you heard that from Srila Prabhupada's lotus lips. In April of 1977, barely 7 months before Srila Prabhupada departed from this planet, Tamal Krishna Goswami knew that nobody in ISKCON was qualified to become guru. And Srila Prabhupada also confirmed this statement. So, let us hear what went on further in the conversation.
The process of purification has to be there.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants that. Amaradhana Guru has become Guru. But disqualified. Little things, strictly follow.
Not rubber stamp.
Then it will not be effective. You can cheat, but it will not be effective. But we all Gaudiya, everyone wanted to become Guru. And in small temple and Guru attend. No publication, no preaching, simply bring some food stuff. My Guru Maharaj said, joint mess, place for eating, sleeping. Our atta khana, joint mess. Exactly.
So we see here, Srila Prabhupada emphasized that a rubber-stamped guru won't be effective. The key principle here is that to become guru, one must be ordered by one's guru. In other words, any person ordered by his guru to become guru is authorized, and any person who is not ordered by his guru, but he becomes guru somehow or the other, either by himself or somebody else tells him, or there is a body of some people who give him a no objection to become a guru, somehow or the other he becomes guru. Then he is not bona fide, he is rubber stamped or unauthorized guru. Now, let us move on in history to the month of May in the same year, 1977. What had happened was, by May of 1977, Srila Prabhupada's health had deteriorated considerably. Therefore, the devotees decided to shift Srila Prabhupada to a more salubrious place so that Srila Prabhupada could recover his health. So they chose Rishikesh. Rishikesh in Uttarakhand was the place which was chosen for Srila Prabhupada to recuperate. On the 7th of May in 1977, Srila Prabhupada left for Rishikesh by a night train. Overnight, they travelled from Delhi to Rishikesh. And there in Rishikesh, they had taken a place on rent and some few devotees, and Prabhupada was staying there. While they were staying there, on the 14th of May, in the night, there was a fierce thunderstorm. There was a power cut. It was pitch black in the night, and there was lightning, thunder, and strong winds were blowing the whole night. Devotees were all shaken up. The next day, on May 15th, Srila Prabhupada called the devotees and instructed them to make his will. So now, this was a clear indication that Srila Prabhupada had decided to leave the material world. Now, the very next day after that, on the 16th of May, Srila Prabhupada again called the devotees. At 2:30 a.m., Prabhupada was sitting up straight on his bed, and he said, "If I am going to die, then let it be in Vrindavan." Now, it was more clear what Srila Prabhupada had decided. So the devotees immediately started making arrangements, and maybe they could not arrange train tickets at such a short notice, or for whatever reason, they got a car to take Srila Prabhupada to Vrindavan. So the same day, Srila Prabhupada was taken to Delhi by car, and they reached Delhi in the evening. they stayed in Delhi for the night, and again in the morning, the next day, May 17th, they left from Delhi by car and went to Vrindavan. And in this way, Prabhupada reached Vrindavan on the 17th of May 1977. There, many of you who would have visited the Krishna Balram temple in the guest house, there is Prabhupada's quarters, and Prabhupada was staying there. 5 days after reaching Vrindavan, on the 22nd of May, Srila Prabhupada said, it is better to plan for the worst. And he called all the GBCs to come to Vrindavan. So, based on this order of Prabhupada on 22nd of May, by May 28th, most of the GBC members had reached Vrindavan, and they held a meeting in Vrindavan on the 28th of May. At that time in ISKCON, there were 23 GBC members, but only 18 were able to make it to Vrindavan for the meeting. After due deliberations in the meeting, the GBC chose 5 questions that they wanted answers from Srila Prabhupada to for the time after his departure. So the 18 GBC members who were present there noted down the 5 questions they wanted to ask Srila Prabhupada. What were those questions? The questions were, number 1, how long should GBC members remain in office? Number 2, how can GBC members who leave be replaced? So actually, you see, these 2 questions are relevant only in Prabhupada's disappearance. Because as long as Prabhupada was there, the GBC members were continuing, and whoever was leaving, Prabhupada was replacing them. So this question was coming up because in future, when Prabhupada is not there, how will they do it? Question number 3. In the absence of Srila Prabhupada, what is the procedure for first, second and sannyas initiations? Question number 4. What is the relationship of the person who gives this initiation to the person he gives it to? And question number 5, the last question. Is there any provision for publication of other translations of Vaishnava scriptures by the BBT after the departure of Srila Prabhupada? So we can see that all the 5 questions that were prepared by the GBC in that meeting on 28th of May were all for the time after Srila Prabhupada's departure. Until May of 1977, Srila Prabhupada appointed the GBCs. So, they wanted to know, after Prabhupada's departure, how the GBCs would be appointed. Similarly, the other questions are also valid, especially for the time after Prabhupada's disappearance. Even the question on how initiations were to be conducted in ISKCON were also for the future, when Prabhupada was not there with us. Initiations had already been going on in ISKCON for 11 years, from 1966 till 1977. So what was the need to ask how it would be conducted? Unless it was for the time when Srila Prabhupada had departed, when he was no longer with us. Otherwise, this question has no meaning. So, coming back to the meeting, the 18 GBC members then chose 7 senior-most devotees amongst them. These devotees were the ones who had been part of the original 12 GBC members chosen by Srila Prabhupada in 1970, when the direction of management was formulated, which is how the GBC was born. So these 7 members were to take these 5 questions to Srila Prabhupada. In effect, the GBC meeting for these 5 questions was chaired by Srila Prabhupada himself. Now, let us listen to the recording of this meeting between the 7 GBC members and Srila Prabhupada, where these 5 questions were put to Prabhupada. So, we will listen to that portion of the meeting which is relevant to questions 3 and 4, which are related to initiations in ISKCON. Question number 3. In the absence of Srila Prabhupada, what is the procedure for first, second and sannyas initiations? This was question 3. And what was question 4? What is the relationship of the person who gives this initiation to the person he gives it to? This is the 4th question. A little bit of complicated, convoluted question, but nevertheless, these are the 2 questions that we will be focusing upon. And here is the recording of that conversation related to this.
Then our next question concerns initiations in the future, particularly at that time when you're no longer with us. We want to know how a first and second initiation would be conducted.
Yes, I shall recommend some of you. After this is settled up, I shall recommend some of you to act as officiating acharya.
Is that called Ritvik?
Ritvik, yeah.
Then what is the relationship of that person who gives the initiation and the
Guru? He's Guru.
But he does it on your behalf.
Yeah, there is formality. Because in my presence one should not become Guru. So on my behalf, on my order, हमारा आज्ञा Guru हो गया. He actually Guru, but by my order.
So they may also be considered your disciples.
Yes, they are disciples. I consider. Who?
No, he's asking that these Ritvik acharyas, they're officiating, giving diksha. They're the people who they give diksha to. Whose disciple are they?
They're his disciple.
They're his disciple.
Who is initiated? His grand disciple.
Yes. Then we have a question.
When I order him to become Guru, he becomes regular Guru. That's all. He becomes disciple of my disciple. That's it.
Now that you have heard this portion of the conversation, the supporters of the self-authorized gurus use the last portion of this meeting, especially the portion where Srila Prabhupada says he is his disciple. He is grand disciple, to claim that Srila Prabhupada appointed them as gurus. However, let us try to understand the meeting proceedings a little better. Let us take one question at a time. If you all recollect, there were 2 questions, question number 3 and question number 4. So let us take one question at a time and see what Srila Prabhupada's reply to it was. Question number 3, we will take this up first. What was question number 3? Satswarupa, by the votes of the present GBC. Then our next question concerns initiations in the future, particularly at that time when you are no longer with us. We want to know how first and second initiation would be conducted. This was question number 3 put forth by Satswarup Das. Prabhupada responded, yes, I shall recommend some of you. After this is settled up, I shall recommend some of you to act as officiating acharyas. This was Prabhupada's immediate response. And Tamal Krishna responded to that. Is that called Ritvik Acharya? And Prabhupada said, Ritvik, yes. Prabhupada actually corrected him. Tamal Krishna Goswami said, Ritvik Acharya. Prabhupada said, no, it is Ritvik. Ritvik, yes. So with this, the response to question 3 ended. It is very obvious and clear that Srila Prabhupada's response was crystal clear, and there was no doubt about Prabhupada's response in the minds of the GBC present. So question 3 and its response very clear, no ambiguity. Immediately after this, Satswarup Das and Tamal Krishna went on to the next question. So it is as clear as daylight that Srila Prabhupada was going to appoint officiating acharyas or ritviks, not Diksha Gurus. If Srila Prabhupada wanted them to become gurus, he could have said that he is going to recommend some of them to act as Diksha Gurus or Gurus. But no, the moment the question was put to Srila Prabhupada, how initiations will be conducted in the future, particularly at that time when Prabhupada is no longer with us, Srila Prabhupada, without hesitating for a moment or waiting to think or considering different options, should we do like this or should we have this system or we have that system, there was no such consideration. Prabhupada immediately responded with officiating acharyas. A clear, straight question and a clear, straight answer. And we all know that Srila Prabhupada did choose 11 people to act as Ritvik, representative of the Acharya, which in other words is officiating Acharya. And when did Srila Prabhupada do this? He did this in the July 9th, 1977 Directive. Hence, the July 9th Directive appointing Ritviks is not a temporary arrangement, but it is meant for the time, particularly when Srila Prabhupada is not with us. So question 3 and its response very clear. There was no doubt in the minds of Tamal Krishna or Satswarup Das. Now we come to question 4. This question, as we saw earlier, is framed in a little convoluted manner. They could have asked a clear and straight question. Whose disciple are those who are getting initiated? Instead, they came up with this. Satswarup Das started reading out the 4th question. Then what is the relationship of that person who gives the initiation and he came to only that much? Prabhupada interrupted him. So this was a complicated question. And naturally, complicated question will get a complicated reply. So, Srila Prabhupada's reply to this question can be split into 2 parts. In the first part, Srila Prabhupada gives the principle, the same principle which he mentioned in the April 22nd meeting with Tamal Krishna Goswami, which we have gone through already. So, this April 22nd meeting discussion with Tamal Krishna Goswami happened just about a month before this May 28 meeting. In that meeting, in that discussion, as well as here, Srila Prabhupada quoted Amar Ajnai verse and stressed on the fact that without order of the predecessor Guru, no one can become Guru. This is an inviolable principle. So now, let us see what is Prabhupada's response to Satswarup Dasa's question. Prabhupada, he is Guru, Satswarup, but he does it on your behalf. Prabhupada, yes, that is formality, because in my presence one should not become Guru, so on my behalf, on my order, Amar Ajnai Guru Haya. Be actually Guru, but by my order. So here we can clearly see that Prabhupada is reiterating the same principle which we discussed in the April 22nd discussion between Prabhupada and Tamal Krishna Goswami. Without one's Guru's order, no one can become Guru. Srila Prabhupada was stating this principle. Another point to note here is that Satswarup Das wanted to ask what is the relationship between the Ritvik and the devotee who is getting initiated. But instead, he ended up asking what is the relationship between the person who gives initiation and the disciple. Actually, in Srila Prabhupada's mind, it is clear that there are 2 people. One who gives initiation which is Srila Prabhupada, and the other one who officiates, which is the Ritvik. So, when Satswarup Das asked what is the relationship of the person who gives initiation and the disciple, Srila Prabhupada immediately said that he is Guru. What does that mean? The person who is giving initiation, the initiator is the Guru, and the officiator is the Ritvik. Initiator is Srila Prabhupada, and he is Guru. It is very clear, abundantly clear. Now, in the second part of this conversation, of this reply, Satswarup Das and Tamal Krishna Goswami wanted to clearly know if the disciples are theirs or Srila Prabhupada's. So, the first part of the reply did not yield the response they were looking for. So, they wanted to see if they can eke out something which they were looking for. Because in the first part of this reply, Prabhupada only spoke about the principle, Amara Jnai Guru Haya and all that. So, Satswarup Das wanted to clarify. So, Satswarup, so they may also be considered your disciples. Prabhupada, yes, they are disciples. Why consider who? Tamal Krishna intervened. No, he is asking that these Ritvik Acharyas, they are officiating, giving Diksha. There, the people who they give Diksha to, whose disciple are they? So, you have to understand this question by Tamal Krishna Goswami. Here, Tamal Krishna Goswami sensed the difference in understanding between Satswarup Das and Srila Prabhupada. When Satswarup Das asked, what is the relationship of the person who gives initiation, he was referring to the officiator, the Ritvik. But Prabhupada, he referred to the initiator, which was himself. So Tamal Krishna Goswami understood, and he intervened with the clarification that they were asking about the Ritvik, not the one who gives initiation. And then to that, Srila Prabhupada replied as follows. Prabhupada, they are his disciple. Tamal Krishna, they are his disciple. Prabhupada, who is initiating? He is grand disciple. Satswarup, yes. Tamal Krishna, that's clear. Satswarup, immediately he is going to the next question. Then we have a question concerning, Prabhupada has still not completed. He intervenes. When I order, you become Guru, he becomes regular Guru. That's all. He becomes disciple of my disciple. That's it. Now this appears a little confusing. The moment Srila Prabhupada said they are his disciple, Tamal Krishna Goswami and Satswarup Das felt that the response that they had wanted to hear has now come. They wanted to close the reply and go to the next question. Looks like they were not aware that Srila Prabhupada had not finished his reply, and they ended up interrupting Prabhupada. So if we remove the interruptions, which are simply repetitions of whatever Prabhupada said, they are his disciple, they are his disciple, then Srila Prabhupada's reply looks like this. Tamal Krishna, no, he is asking that these Ritvik Acharyas, they are officiating, giving Diksha, there, the people who they give Diksha to, whose disciple are they? Prabhupada, they are his disciple, who is initiating. He is grand disciple. When I order, you become Guru, he becomes regular Guru. That's all. He becomes disciple of my disciple. That's it. So when we remove the interruptions, the conversation looks like this. Now in the last part, one option of Srila Prabhupada's reply is, who is initiating? He is grand disciple. But the phrase, who is initiating? He is grand disciple, doesn't make any sense at all. I am initiating someone, How do I become my own grand disciple? It doesn't make sense. So, what is the other option? The other option is that it must be they are his disciple who is initiating. Now, this option, they are his disciple who is initiating, makes perfect sense and is completely in sync with what Srila Prabhupada said earlier, that the disciples are his. He is the initiator, and whoever is initiating, the disciples belong to him. There are two people here. One is the initiator, the other is the officiator. Srila Prabhupada is the initiator, and Tamal Krishna Goswami, Satswarup Das, and others were going to become the officiators. So whose disciple are they? They are the disciples of the initiator who is giving the initiation, which is Srila Prabhupada. So then the conversation looks like this. Let us take a look at it in light of this. Tamal Krishna. No, he is asking that these Ritvik Acharyas, they are officiating, giving Diksha. There, the people who they give Diksha to, whose disciple are they? Prabhupada. They are his disciple who is initiating. He is grand disciple. When I order, you become Guru. He becomes regular Guru. That's all. He becomes disciple of my disciple. That's it. Now, the conversation is beginning to make sense. This means Prabhupada goes on to clarify that only when he orders someone to become Guru, saying you become Guru, then only he becomes Guru, and the question of disciple of Prabhupada's disciple arises. Prabhupada is again stating the same principle, Amarajnai, which Prabhupada spoke in the first half of the reply, which we have already seen. So now the entire thing makes perfect sense. Otherwise, you see, a few seconds earlier, when Satswarup Das asked, so they may also be considered your disciples. When Satswarup Das asked this, what was Srila Prabhupada's reply? Srila Prabhupada replied, yes, they are disciples. Why consider? To think that Srila Prabhupada first said that the disciples are his and then changed it to disciple of his disciple in a matter of few seconds does not make sense at all. However, when we see that Srila Prabhupada is stressing that the disciples are his and that they can become their disciple only when he orders, it becomes crystal clear that Srila Prabhupada is consistent throughout the discussion. Now that we have understood the real meaning of this conversation, let us go through it once again, beginning with question 3. Satswarupa. Then our next question concerns initiations in the future, particularly at that time when you are no longer with us. We want to know how first and second initiation will be conducted. Prabhupada, yes, I shall recommend some of you. After this is settled up, I shall recommend some of you to act as officiating acharyas. Tamal Krishna, is that called Ritvik Acharya? Prabhupada, Ritvik, yes. So here the reply to question 3 ended. So Prabhupada is going to appoint a Ritvik. Appoint only Ritviks, not Diksha Gurus. Then Satswarupa starts with question number 4. Satswarupa, then what is the relationship of that person who gives the initiation and the... So he said who gives the initiation. He did not say who officiates. So because he used the word initiation, Prabhupada replied, he is Guru. He is Guru, meaning the person who gives the initiation, which is Prabhupada, is the Guru. But Satswarup has misunderstood. He is thinking the person who is giving initiation is the Ritvik. So he says, but he does it on your behalf. So Prabhupada understands that he is now referring to the officiator, the Ritvik. So Prabhupada says, yes, that is formality, because in my presence one should not become Guru. So on my behalf, on my order, Amara Ajnai Guru Haya, be actually Guru, but by my order. So Prabhupada is stating two principles here. One is in Prabhupada's presence, one should not become Guru. So anyway, he cannot become Guru. And another principle is Amara Ajnai Guru Haya. you can become Guru, but only against Prabhupada's order. Satsvarupa. So they may also be considered your disciples. Prabhupada, yes, they are disciples. Why consider who? So Prabhupada still has not changed his stance that there is an officiator who will represent Prabhupada, and Prabhupada will give Diksha and the disciples will be his. So he is saying, yes, they are disciples. Why consider who? So Tamal Krishna understood now. Okay. Satsvarupa has got confused. So he jumped in clarifying. No, he is asking that these Ritvik Acharyas, they are officiating, giving Diksha. The people who they give Diksha to, whose disciple are they? Prabhupada. They are his disciple who is initiating. So, you see, Prabhupada is throughout consistently saying the person who is initiating, which is Prabhupada, the disciples belong to him. That means disciples belong to Prabhupada. He is grand disciple. When I order, you become Guru. He becomes regular Guru. That's all. He becomes a disciple of my disciple. That's it. So again, Prabhupada stated the principle. That don't expect that they will become your disciples. When I order, you become Guru. Then you become regular Guru. At that time, he will become disciple of my disciple. So, we can see here clearly that when we look at the conversation in a proper way, it is completely free from any sort of confusion. So now there is no confusion. It is very clear. Prabhupada did not order anyone to become disciple of disciple or to become Guru. Anyway, hypothetically speaking, for the sake of argument, let us say that Srila Prabhupada's reply to question 4 was not clear. Whether the disciples belong to Srila Prabhupada or they become his grand disciple, let us say it is not clear. So no matter whatever the lack of clarity in the reply to question 4, the reply to question 3, there was never any doubt. It was crystal clear and it was accepted to be so by all the GBC members present there. What was that? That they would be Ritviks and not Diksha Gurus. None of them had any question. So it is irrefutable that Srila Prabhupada did not appoint Gurus or Diksha Gurus or Acharyas. He only appointed officiating Acharyas or Ritviks. Now the hypothetical confusion is with regard to only question 4. And what is that question 4? The question 4 is, what is the relationship between the Ritvik and the person getting Diksha or initiation? This is where confusion hypothetically is. Although we have already shown that there is no confusion. Even if such confusion is there, all such confusion was completely cleared by Srila Prabhupada when he chose the first 11 Ritviks through his directive on July 9th, 1977. In that directive, Srila Prabhupada not only appointed 11 Ritviks, but he also made it amply clear there what is the relationship between the Ritvik and the disciple by stating multiple times in that directive that the disciples who are being initiated are his disciples. So, that confusion about the relationship between the Ritvik and the disciple was also cleared by Srila Prabhupada on July 9th. So, what remains? However, despite the so-called confusion in the response to question 4, here is what the GBC recorded in their minutes on 28th of May 1977. Interestingly, they recorded, Srila Prabhupada said he will appoint several devotees who shall perform initiation in the future even after his disappearance. The disciples they accept shall be their disciples and Srila Prabhupada will be their grand spiritual master. Actually, this is not what Prabhupada said. Anyway, this is what they recorded in the GBC minutes of 28th May 1977. These 7 members came back and whatever they said got entered into the minutes book. And all the 18 members present there signed the minutes. But they did not take Srila Prabhupada's signature on the minutes. That was a grave omission. After all the 5 questions and their responses were directions given by Srila Prabhupada for the moment, particularly after his disappearance. In all fairness, in an ideal case, Srila Prabhupada's signature was essential on the minutes. But they did not take it. Devotees, in fact, did try to take Srila Prabhupada's signature on that minutes. But see for yourself what happened. This is what Satswarup Das recollects in his recent memoir of 1977. He states, Jadvaita Maharaj did say strongly that I had better get this in writing from Srila Prabhupada. He said this was very important and that it was really not clear. He said that unless it was in writing, it would be contested by devotees later. I was surprised to hear that because it all seemed quite clear to me. But Jadvaita Maharaj insisted that I get it in writing from Prabhupada. So, on his advice, I thought he must be right, that it was very serious. I went down to Tamal Krishna Maharaj and asked about it. I asked Tamal Krishna Maharaj to please get this in writing. He asked, why? I said, because people will not understand that Prabhupada picked the regular gurus when he named the persons who would initiate while he was still with us. Tamal Krishna Maharaj replied that he himself knew very well what Prabhupada intended and that was good enough for him. So Satswarup Das did not leave it there. So he continues, I tried again to ask him, to ask Prabhupada to sign something, but Tamal Krishna was not willing. So you see, Tamal Krishna Goswami stalled, obstructed the demand to get Srila Prabhupada's signature on the GBC minutes. Maybe he knew what would happen if they did take the minutes to Srila Prabhupada. But irrespective of that, Srila Prabhupada gave clear directions in the July 9th, 1977 Directive. Those instructions are unequivocal. We cannot go by what the GBC recorded in the minutes book because it is not countersigned by Srila Prabhupada. Again, for hypothetical argument's sake, if we assume that Srila Prabhupada did indeed want his disciples to initiate their own disciples, as it was recorded in the minutes of the GBC in writing, one thing is very, very clear. The GBC recorded in their minutes that Srila Prabhupada will appoint devotees who shall perform initiations in the future. This is what that recording says. But did that appointment come? That appointment never came. So whichever way you go, either that they are disciples of Srila Prabhupada or they are grand disciples of Srila Prabhupada, fact is that the appointment of gurus never came from Srila Prabhupada. Hence, there is no basis for the guru system which was implemented in ISKCON in 1978, nor the one which is currently running. Both are only rubber-stamped gurus, not bona fide gurus. The only appointment that came was on July 9th, 1977 for Ritviks, not for gurus, not for Diksha gurus. And in that directive, very clearly it is mentioned that the disciples will be Srila Prabhupada's disciples, not the Ritviks. And here is that directive. So this directive was written to all GBC and temple presidents. Tamal Krishna Maharaj is writing this letter and it is approved by Srila Prabhupada with his signature on this letter. So, this letter begins, Dear Maharaj and Prabhus, please accept my humble obeisances at your feet. Recently, when all of the GBC members were with His Divine Grace in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada indicated that soon he would appoint some of his senior disciples to act as Ritvik, representative of the Acharya, for the purpose of performing initiations, both first initiation and second initiation. His Divine Grace has so far given a list of 11 disciples who will act in that capacity. And then the list of 11 names. His Holiness Kirtanananda Swami, His Holiness Satswarup Das Goswami, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami, His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami, His Holiness Hridayananda Goswami, His Holiness Bhavananda Goswami, His Holiness Hansaduta Swami, His Holiness Rameshwara Swami, His Holiness Harikesha Swami, His Grace Bhagavan Das Adhikari, His Grace Jaitirtha Das Adhikari. These were the 11 names. And the letter continues. In the past, temple presidents have written to Srila Prabhupada recommending a particular devotee's initiation. Now that Srila Prabhupada has named these representatives, temple presidents may henceforward send a recommendation for first and second initiation to whichever of these 11 representatives are nearest their temple. After considering the recommendation, these representatives may accept the devotee as an initiated disciple of Srila Prabhupada by giving a spiritual name, or in the case of second initiation, by chanting on the Gayatri thread, just as Srila Prabhupada has done. The newly initiated devotees are disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the above 11 senior devotees acting as his representative. After the temple president receives a letter from these representatives, giving the spiritual name or the thread, he can perform the fire yajna in the temple as was being done before. The name of a newly initiated disciple should be sent by the representatives who has accepted him or her to Srila Prabhupada to be included in His Divine Grace's Initiated Disciples book. Hope this finds you all well. Signed, your servant Tamal Krishna Goswami, Secretary to Srila Prabhupada, and approved by Srila Prabhupada himself with his trademark signature. So in 4 places in the above directive, it is clearly established that the newly initiated devotees are disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And when devotees wanted to get more clarity on these Ritviks from Srila Prabhupada directly, what happened? Yashodanandan Swami at that time, in his diary of late July 1977, he has recorded an interaction which happened on the Krishna Balram temple courtyard. Guru Kripa to Bhagavan. Why don't we go and ask Srila Prabhupada what he means by this Ritvik Acharya thing? How is it supposed to work? Can anyone else do this besides the 11 named in the letter? What is the GBC's role in all of this? Let's go and ask him. Bhagavan Das to Tamal Krishna. Let's go and see Prabhupada and clarify this Ritvik Acharya thing. Tamal Krishna to Guru Kripa. Prabhupada is not well. Besides, I think he is busy. Let's not disturb him with this. It's clear anyway. So you see, Tamal Krishna Goswami again prevented a meeting which could have further clarified the matter. Be that as it may, there are other devotees who also recollect about this Ritvik incident. One of them is Gauridas Pandit Prabhu, who recalls in On My Behalf. So Gauridas Pandit Prabhu was one of Srila Prabhupada's personal servants in 1977. So he writes, the next few days after the Ritvik appointments, I heard more instructions from Srila Prabhupada. Tamal Krishna Goswami asked him the next morning, July 8, if there should be Vyasasans for the Ritviks in the temples. So July 7th was a conversation where Prabhupada gave all the names, which finally appeared on the July 9th directive. But on the intervening day, on July 8th, Tamal Krishna Goswami had further questions to ask, so that when he finally made the July 9th letter, all these things could go in. So on July 9th, he asked him in the next morning, on July 8th, if there should be Vyasasans for the Ritviks in the temple. Srila Prabhupada said, no, that would create enmity amongst my disciples. Tamal Krishna Goswami also asked Srila Prabhupada if there could be more Ritviks in the future. Srila Prabhupada said that more could be appointed by the GBC at Mayapur. Tamal Krishna Goswami asked Srila Prabhupada what to do if a Ritvik falls down? And Srila Prabhupada replied that the GBC could remove them. I told some of the devotees what I heard about this, and Yashodanandan wrote it down in his diary. So actually, you see, appointment or removal of the Ritviks is not a major issue. Because if we need more Ritviks, how will we decide we need more Ritviks? It is when there are too many devotees to be initiated, and whatever number of Ritviks we have now, it is not sufficing. So you increase the number of Ritviks. It is purely based on demand. And when you have to manage demand and supply, it is called management. And the GBC is a managerial body. It will manage appointment as well as removal of the Ritviks. And that's why Prabhupada's July 9 directive did not talk about appointing or removal of the Ritviks, because the GBCs could do it. Then, Gauridas Pandit Prabhu continues. On July 8th, Yashodanandan Prabhu wrote in his diary, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was talking about Ritvik Gurus to initiate on behalf of Prabhupada after he leaves the planet. And on July 9th, Yashodanandan Prabhu wrote in his diary, I heard from Tamal Krishna Maharaj in the afternoon that Srila Prabhupada had told him to send a letter to all temples to explain the Ritvik system for the future. The next day, on 10th of July, Yashodanandan Prabhu wrote in his diary, Tamal Krishna Maharaj comes out of Prabhupada's room. And the conversation goes like this. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Haribol, Yashoda, did you see this? Yashoda, no, what is it? Tamal Krishna Goswami, this is signed by Prabhupada. Yashodanandan Prabhu, what does all this mean? Tamal Krishna Goswami, devotees have been writing to Prabhupada asking for initiations, and now Prabhupada has named 11 Ritviks who can initiate on his behalf. Prabhupada said others can be added. Yashodanandan Prabhu, and when Prabhupada disappears, Tamal Krishna Goswami, there will be Ritviks. That is what Prabhupada said. It is all on tape. And this is what Gauridas Pandit Prabhu has recorded in his On My Behalf. So you see, Tamal Krishna Goswami said, devotees have been writing to Prabhupada asking for initiations. So actually what had happened, after the May 28th conversation, it was clear to everyone that Prabhupada was going to appoint Ritviks. So all the initiations were put on hold. And by July 7th, a lot of requests had become pending. And that is how Tamal Krishna Maharaj went and asked Prabhupada what to do now. May 28th, already Prabhupada had said that he is going to appoint some Ritviks, but that had not happened. And they did not know what to do now. They were waiting. So Prabhupada then, on July 7th, gave the names for the Ritviks. So when Tamal Krishna Maharaj got it, he told Yashodanandan Prabhu, devotees have been writing to Prabhupada asking for initiations, and now Prabhupada has named 11 Ritviks who can initiate on his behalf. And Prabhupada said others can be added. By whom? Naturally by the GBC. In another testimony by His Holiness Chavana Swami on his Facebook page on September 7, 2016, he gave a testimony. According to his testimony, Srila Prabhupada said, I will continue to accept disciples and give them my blessings even after I am no longer physically present. You may initiate them on my behalf. To that, Prabhupada added, I will have millions of disciples. This is what Chavana Swami recalls. Yet another devotee from Srila Prabhupada coined the term Ritvik, which was an article on Vaishnava News Network on December 1st, 1998. One devotee, Pita Prabhu, recollected in 1998. The fact of the matter was, Srila Prabhupada made himself very clear on how new devotees coming into his movement were to be accepted into it after his disappearance. The word Ritvik was first heard by me from Srila Prabhupada's lotus mouth, and His Divine Grace used the term many times during his last 2 weeks in Vrindavan. I remember this clearly because I didn't know what a Ritvik was. This is Pita Prabhu. Another devotee, Lochanananda Prabhu, in his book Srila Prabhupada Hidden Glories, he writes, one other thing Pita Prabhu mentioned in the same letter to Lochanananda Prabhu was that he heard Srila Prabhupada say at least a dozen times in Vrindavan in 1977 that initiations would be performed after his departure by the Ritvik Acharya. So you can see there are multiple devotees who recollect Prabhupada saying that the future initiations, even after his disappearance, would continue to be done by the Ritviks. Now, let us see what a third party, a person not connected to ISKCON, had to say on this appointment. This is B.V. Puri Maharaj from Sri Chaitanya Chandra Ashram. He recollects a conversation with Srila Prabhupada that he had in late 1977. B.V. Puri Maharaj, Maharaj, you have established 11 gurus. There is no harmony. There can be no harmony. Guru must be one. You have selected 11 gurus. Srila Prabhupada, I have not selected. I have appointed 11 ritviks. So even someone outside of ISKCON was very clear and certain that Srila Prabhupada appointed ritviks, not gurus. And as we have seen the events leading up to the May 28th meeting of the GBC, it was of very crucial significance. Srila Prabhupada had decided to leave the world and came to Vrindavan for that very purpose. And there he called the GBC to Vrindavan to discuss what directions they wanted for the future of the movement after his departure. It was in that context that the May 28th meeting took place, and the July 9th directive was an outcome of that meeting, as it is mentioned in the opening lines of the directive. Recently, when all of the GBC members were there with His Divine Grace in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada indicated that soon he would appoint some of his senior disciples to act as Ritvik, representative of the Acharya, for the purpose of performing initiations, both first initiation and second initiation. This is the opening line of the July 9th directive. So this opening line refers to the recent meeting of the GBC with Srila Prabhupada. So it is clear that this Ritvik system of initiation was particularly for the time when Srila Prabhupada was no longer with us, because that GBC meeting with Srila Prabhupada referred to in the opening line of this July 9th directive is referring to the May 28th GBC meeting. Hence, the July 9th directive to carry out initiations in ISKCON is not some temporary order. It is the final order of Srila Prabhupada, and ISKCON must follow it. Vishwa Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.